Jackie, I'm going to latch on to one comment that you made during your last explanation there, and that's everything coming together for Florida here in 2020, considering Georgia owned the division for 3 consecutive years. There was a decided, I won't say significant, talent gap. Do we think that the power has shifted in the East, or does this appear to be an aberration, or Florida has caught Georgia, surpassed Georgia? Where do you think that power struggle stands right now?
I think Florida has the edge. I actually wrote right after Florida beats Georgia. If you look at the team's trajectory, just focusing on the quarterback room, you can see where Florida has the edge right now. There's so many questions with Georgia's quarterback room. Kirby Smart is getting the same questions that Jim McElwain got right before he left. How is he managing that quarterback room? So when you look at Florida, there's none of those questions. We see Kyle Trask, we see the next guy, Emory Jones, and we see the next guy, Anthony Richardson. And then we have those guys coming in like Carlos Del Rio, and they're recruiting a recruit that's going to be signing here probably in the next week or so. So when you look at that trajectory, just in the quarterback room, you can see where Florida is doing well. Then they've recruited well on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive skill players, they're slowly getting there. They picked up DeMarcus Bowman as a transfer from Clemson, who was a former 5-star running back. So when you see that Florida specifically has utilized a transfer portal and bringing those 5 stars that they miss, I think Florida has finally closed the gap talent-wise, but I think it's development of the individual players that really puts them over the edge. I think when you look what Kirby Smart has done with some of his players and what Dan Mullen has done with some of his players, and you can see the development, you just have to give the edge to Florida. And Florida has done a great job of also filling in the holes that were left for them from the other staff. So when you look at how the scholarship numbers are broken down, Jim McElwain and Will Muschamp did not do a good job of making sure there was class balances across. Like the defensive line and specifically defensive tackle, there were gaps in there. There were gaps between classes and in the O-line as well. Dan Mullen, John Hevesy, and now David Turner have done well in making sure the classes are becoming more balanced, which means when these group of guys, graduate, they'll have more guys fill in. What they also have done is put some effort in the recruiting office to make sure they always have an eye and ears open for transfers. They've done a good job of highlighting some of the guys that they would have fit into their positions. They don't really like to do that very often in the quarterback position. Dan Mullen, remember, he didn't go after Joe Burrow. He decided to stick with the guys that he had. So I think that is something that has put them over the edge with Georgia too. I think just because of the way Kirby Smart has handled that quarterback room, Justin Fields transferring, and going for Jake Fromm rather than Justin Fields was a pivotal point in the tenure of Kirby Smart. And I think years later, he's going to probably regret that. Same thing when you look back at Jim McElwain and the whole thing with Will Grier. I think those were the pivotal moments of each of these guys' career at their respective programs. And I think Dan Mullen was just a guy who came in, took advantage of it. And when you say it came all together, it was like 2020 was just that they've had so many veterans on the team and they just had great chemistry. You have a Heisman contender in Kyle Trask. You have, honestly, Kyle Pitts, if he didn't miss games, could also have been a Heisman contender tight end. You have wide receivers that are very talented, and Trey Grimes, Justin Shorter, Jacob Copeland. He's got so many skilled players that are talented that when he only has 17 yards rushing and he's beating other teams by multiple touchdowns, you're like, yes, this is a time for Florida. And they're doing well on the recruiting trail as well, despite all the challenges they're having in 2020 where kids aren't visiting. And in full honesty, kids not visiting might have helped Florida because they're only seeing what Dan Mullen's producing on the field. They're seeing these guys being developed. They're seeing a 2-star quarterback being talked for the Heisman. When I'm talking, if I'm a high school recruit talking to Dan Mullen saying like, you know what? You're a 4-star, 5-star recruit. What do you think I can do with your talent when I took a 2-star quarterback to be a Heisman talker?
Yeah, Florida fans for sure. College football fans, definitely you as well. You hear what Jackie brings to the table. Certainly check out her work on allgators.com on SI. Jackie, we appreciate the conversation each and every time. It's great insight into Florida football.
Thanks for having me, Mark.